Babylon is directed by Damien Chazelle and stars Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, uh, what's his name, Diego Calva, and among others. And this story is set in the 1920s during the silent film era, where you have a group of different Hollywood actors and other like musicians and among others that come together, essentially trying to make it into the Hollywood era of transitioning from silent films to eventually to sound films. And it goes into pretty much an ensemble piece where you have one story involving Brad Pitt, and who's essentially a silent actor trying to get used to the ways that they transition into to sound films. And then you also have another story that's involving with Margot Robbie, who's kind of basically a sex addicted, drug addicted that actress that's trying to also make it in Hollywood, and she ends up meeting this guy that's named this guy named Manny, played by Diego Calva, and he wants to try to make it and everything in Hollywood, and he ends up falling in love with her. And then you also have another story that's involved with a musician that's trying to get into the Hollywood business and trying to make it as well. And the way that the movie kind of goes along with its changes over the years, transitioning, it takes a lot of turmoil for some characters, and it's a way of them trying to get through everything, for better or worse. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Damien Chazelle. I've only seen like two of his movies. I saw Whiplash, that I thought was really good, and then I saw First Man, which I was kind of iffy on. But I haven't seen La La Land. I heard that from a lot of people that it was a great movie, but I kind of avoided it for a while because it did look like one of those kind of movies that just looked like Oscar kind of bait, and it just didn't really appeal to me that much, and so I avoided that one. But going into this one, it got me really curious because it seemed like they were kind of doing a spin of doing like a whole Once Upon a Time in Hollywood crossed with like Wolf of Wall Street kind of vibe. And upon seeing the trailers, I could see all kinds of crazy stuff that they were going with, trying to go on that kind of level. And after upon seeing the movie, this was, in my opinion, one of the best movies I saw all year of 2022. I felt like it was not only a great throwback to a lot of those epic type of Hollywood films that we saw back then, that feature a lot of grand scale and a lot of ways that they do kind of tell their story, the biggest example is that Scene in the Rain movie, where it's set in Hollywood and they're having to do like a movie, like a making of movie aspect. And that's what a lot of this one is, really. It's like a lot of not only that, but also the craziness that you would see from like Wolf of Wall Street and all kinds of other stuff, where you're seeing people doing drugs, having all kinds of orgies, all kinds of shit. And it goes really out there like insane. To get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were fantastic. Brad Pitt's great as usual. Him trying to play the typical actor that's trying to, basically, he's kind of out of his prime, where he's having to get used to the ways that they go from being very in silent films up until sound films. And there's something that really goes into his art that I thought was really not only, you've seen it done in other films, but the way it plays out I thought was very enduring. And also it's funny because there's a running theme where he's essentially having like a different wife in every other scene. And so it seems like, he's one that just constantly gets either divorced or whatever. But I thought he was great. And then Margot Robbie, of course, is fantastic as well. She's playing the struggling actress that's trying to that goes into all those like crazy parties like you see in the trailers and stuff. And a lot of it has to do with her addiction to drugs. And she has some of the funniest lines in the film that I thought were great. And there is actually really one scene that's, you can really see the struggles that she kind of goes with, as far as like being in certain scenes when they get into the sound part of the film, where she's doing a scene and they have to really be quiet on set because they're first trying to use sound to use for sound movies. And this whole scene reminds me of something straight out of Whiplash, the way it just goes very, they have to do constantly take after take after take trying to get this right without having any interruptions. And so I thought that was one of the best moments I saw with her. And it really showcased a lot of what directors were struggling with back then, with having to incorporate new technology or anything that we haven't seen before. And then the rest of the movie too, and I got to also give credit to Diego Calva, who played Manny. I thought he was great. He was definitely the heart of the film, where he's really trying to get himself into Hollywood and trying to really follow along with seeing all the changes that happened and interacting with a lot of the other main characters throughout. I thought that he was tremendous in this, and I think this is also his debut, and he really did a great job. And then one of my other biggest ones I have the most is not only is a great seeing the old, the production design of seeing the old sound films and stuff, but also seeing like the silent era before that, where you see a lot of the struggles that directors had to do when it came to actually filming a lot of scenes, and they had to work with what they had, because cameras back then were a lot more, hard to really incorporate, especially with the type of, there was basically no lighting and things like that, and a lot of times they had to shoot movies during the daytime, and so you could really tell that they put a lot of emphasis on the making of aspects in these movies and stuff, because I thought it really worked well. And a big comparison like that would be with something like Ed Wood, and how in that film too you had Ed Wood having to work with what he had with, and especially during the budget that he had, and so I really do enjoy that. I really do enjoy when movies take advantage of that. We're doing the whole film within film angle, and so that was great. And then just the story itself, the way it goes along, it never really feels like it drags out, because it does feel like it's at a very fast pace, to where you see a lot of the years go by and seeing a lot of the crazy stuff happen, and seeing how the characters eventually get to their downfall, and some get redemption and some get into some really tragic stuff that happens. And so I really thought it was really emotional the way it plays out, and it just really captures everything that I would expect from this kind of film. If I had like really any kind of minor cons, I will say that the movie does have some characters that do get kind of taken out after a while, that you don't really see anymore, and they could have spent a whole lot of time with doing some other things that they could have elaborated more with, and get kind of resolutions on it a little proper more. But other than that, I still thought it was great, and there was something that it did kind of drag out in the last 20 minutes or so on the pacing wise, because it does kind of get into a little too on the nose when it comes to the whole, where it kind of goes meta, in that you're seeing like a montage of how the movies play, how the movies have evolved over the years, and I thought it was a little too on the nose on that. But other than that, though, I still thought this was a great movie, and it's going to definitely be in my best of list. And so with that, I'm going to give Babylon a phenomenal grade on the Film Freaks meter. So for those of you who have also seen Babylon, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.